Hello, teachers, parents, and educational leaders, and welcome to this episode of Breaking Down the B.E.S.T. Now, during this episode, you will get a peek into the members-only area where I have tons of resources to help you make math fun, make it click, and make it stick. There should be a link somewhere around this video where you can learn more. All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's get to it, and let's break down the standard. Welcome to Breaking Down the B.E.S.T, a video series dedicated to breaking down Florida's B.E.S.T standards for math. So grab something to write with and maybe even a snack. This looks good. And don't forget to put a smile on your face. There you go, I see you. And let's dive into today's B.E.S.T standard. Hello everybody and welcome. My name is Sarah McCarthy, the creator of McCarthy Math Academy, and I'm super pumped that you are here today as we break down today's standard, which is MA.4.NSO.1.3. By the way, this document that I'm using, I do not own this. This is provided by the Florida Department of Education. It's a public document and available for you. This is how I take standards and break them down and think through them and eventually create the resources for you. And so I thought with these videos that I could just kind of open up the way my brain is thinking about them and hopefully help you just to give you another way, another medium to take in this information, all right? So let's go ahead. So this standard says to plot, which means place a point. We're going to order, which means putting them numbers in order from first, second, third, and so on and so on. And also there are two ways to order numbers. You can go in ascending order, which is from least to greatest, or you can go in descending order from greatest to least. Now, most of the examples that I'm seeing are from least to greatest. However, in all the resources that I've created, I have created examples where they do make the descending order as well, just in case, okay? Also, in this standard, we are comparing, which means using that less than, greater than, or equal to sign. We're comparing, plotting, ordering, and comparing multi-digit whole numbers up to 1 million. I am going to say real quick, I was just working with a student the other day, a fourth grader, who we were working on this very same standard, and he did awesome in third grade. He understood the third grade material, and then we jumped into this. And as of filming this video of breaking down the B.E.S.T, this is the first year that we are entering into these B.E.S.T standards. So he had never seen a number line quite like this. He didn't have to plot points because that wasn't really a requirement for last year with the Common Core standards. So what I'm trying to say is this is heavy, especially for students who are not coming up with this knowledge. And it's not their fault that they're not coming up with the knowledge, right? But we have to fill in those gaps. So there is a third grade standard that we'll talk about. I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm letting you know now. There's a third grade standard which breaks down the same skills that the fourth graders need to know, but with smaller numbers. So we might want to start there, especially if they've never seen numbers up to 1 million before, right? Or they're just getting comfortable with it. Plotting, ordering, comparing numbers, using a number line is a big thing here. So here in the example, I just made I circled the semicolon right there because you can see that is the way that we can separate numbers. Because when we're reading big numbers, we need that comma in between the ones period and the thousands period. So the comma is in the number and we can separate with the semicolon, right? Saying that these numbers can be arranged in ascending order that's going from least to greatest as the following example. So you can take a look at that. Here I said that we will be including appropriately scaled number lines, which was not explicitly used in Common Core. We used mostly place value strategies, which the number line is part of place value strategies. But for a lot of students, I know for me, this was not a strategy that I used. And after working with the particular student that I mentioned earlier, I see the importance of understanding the number lines. This document says that MA.4.NSO.1.3 is a horizontal alignment standard. It connects in a way, and that it's with that standard is multiplying and dividing using estimation, which Okay, but I feel like there's two other standards that kind of connect more with this, so I jotted them down here too. And that is this other fourth grade standard, MA.4.NSO.1.5, which is the same thing, plotting. P, I wrote P for plotting, O for ordering, and comparing with decimal numbers to the, ooh, that should not say hundreds. What do you think that should say? Yes, hundredths. I'm sorry. That's decimal numbers to the hundredths. Okay. Sorry about that. Not only are we plotting, ordering, comparing whole numbers in fourth grade, we're also doing it with decimal numbers real soon. We've got this, don't worry. Okay. I also jotted down this standard, 4.NSO.1.4, which is our rounding, and we're using a number line there too. So I just made this a horizontal alignment because we are rounding and we are using where we plot our points to show if it's closer to one side or the other. It's similar in that way. They mentioned in this document that a whole number is going to be a term that students need to know, which we do. It's right up here in the standard, so of course they need to know it. A whole number is 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way up. Basically, no fractions, no decimals, no negative numbers. Where are they coming from? I'll let you know what the third grade standard is. The third grade standard is plotting, ordering, and comparing up to 10,000. In other words, staying mostly in the thousands place and below when we're plotting, ordering, and comparing numbers. So we might, if you have the membership where you can access all 3 grade levels, which is awesome, you might want to go touch base with that standard first to get your students ready for the 4th grade standards that are coming. And then next year in 5th grade, they will have to plot, order, and compare with decimal numbers to the thousandths. So you can see they're going to have another exposure to it next year too, which is great. I mentioned here this little star, I just said it, but use 3rd grade lessons first to get them ready. You know your students though, and they might be able to jump right into it. Maybe if you start playing the videos that you have access to and you're like, oh my gosh, we really got to pause and go back, you might have to do that. You do you. Here, I would take time to read that. This is how to explain using place value how we can compare numbers. So it says, for example, in comparing 65,570 and 65,192, a student might say both numbers have the same value in the 10,000s place and the same value in the thousands place, which is true. However, the hundreds place is different, so that's where the comparisons of the two numbers would be determined. And I'm going to jump down because here what they're wanting is when they're comparing those values, I'll just show you what they're showing. I'll just show you what you're showing. Hundreds, 1,000s, 10,000s, 100,000s. So if I do this in the videos too. So I could just point into the videos to see, but I'll take the time in this one to show you what I mean. They said 65,570 and 65,192. Here they're mentioning to use the not equal sign right there. So when a value is not equal. So first determining whether the value is equal or not equal, and then using that to compare numbers. So here the 6s, they're both in the 10,000s place. That would be equal. The 5s are both in the thousands place. Those are equal values. The first difference occurs here, which is not equal. And that's the way that I teach it in the video lessons, which is different than the McCarthy Math 155 version. Similar, but just slightly different according to what the standard was suggesting to do. Okay, so that was the whole point of using the equal and not equal sign. Basically what I just said here is what I did there. All right, here I mentioned that yes, this is a great example of a misconception because a lot of times students might say something like 864 and 2001, but they're saying, oh man, 8 is greater than 2. So this number right here, 864, is greater because the 8 is greater than the 2. However, I did make a note that this is more of a 3rd grade example to give here because these are the limits of a 3rd grade lesson. So just be aware of that. These are some instructional tasks and instructional items. and I jotted down here to show you that, look, we have expanded form and we have word form, and first students would have to figure out what the standard form of these numbers would be and then put it in to compare to complete the inequality. So this is a great example of how you're combining understanding of MA.4.NSO.1.2 into a standard like this. So the knowledge never goes away. There's always an opportunity to combine standards together. Okay? All right, so now we've gone over that. Let me show you what you have access to with your memberships. All right, so let's go to members, enter here. There's also a tab up here that you can click. Click taking on the B.E.S.T. We're working on 4th grade today. I will show you a quick glimpse into 3rd grade though, so you can see how it can be used. We're in NSO. That's our strand, and we're doing NSO.1.3, plotting, ordering, comparing whole, multi-digit whole numbers. So in this video, these are your bronze resources. So if you have the bronze plan, this is what you have access to. You also have access to these if you have the silver and the gold. So we've got the video lesson comparing two numbers using place value. So we'll use a place value chart in this lesson. If you click here, this is the printable that you can easily print and download, and your students can follow along right with me. We also have comparing two numbers using a number line. This is going to take some time, so you can click on that, and then plot and order numbers using a number line. Cool. So that's what you have access to with the bronze plan. And then with the silver, if you have the silver, you can click here to access it. If you don't have the silver, it won't work for you. And you can go back to your bronze resources at any time for those video lessons, but these are your extra printables. Here's your answer key. The math misconception mystery video is right here. That's where we have 4 characters. Well, first your students solve the problem according to the standard, and then they'll watch 4 characters solve the problem, which are really just me dressed up as 4 characters. 3 of the characters will solve the problem incorrectly, making a common mistake that students tend to make, and one of them will have the most reasonable answer. It's a great way for students to discuss, to analyze errors. It takes a lot of critical thinking. Their conversations are awesome, and it's super fun. Just watch how engaged your students will be with this lesson. Okay, let me click on your printable so you can see what you got access to here, and just see if there's anything else. So again, the video lesson, comparing two numbers using place value. The cool thing with the silver is that after the lesson, you now have extra practice that looks similar to what we just did in the lesson. So you can just print and go. Then we have got the video lesson for the next video. And then extra practice that looks similar to that. And then finally that 3rd video lesson that's on the bronze resource. You can see here how they're grouped and separated by a semicolon, with extra practice, just like the video lesson. You also have access to the math missions, which takes it all together, the entire standard, and you're plotting, ordering, comparing numbers, which takes more critical thinking than just the video lessons and the extra practice. So it takes it up a notch. And then this is the detective report for the math misconception mystery video for your students to follow along. And I guide you through the whole sheet, so it's cool. All right. That is the silver. And then finally, for you gold members out there, let me show you what you got. You have access to the bronze, the silver, and the gold resources. Includes a mini assessment, which is right here. I'm just gonna quickly go through so you can take a look. Definitely number lines. Look how heavy this one is. Whew. It's a lot. It's just very wordy. It's not a very complicated standard, but it's not a really complicated question. It's just wordy. And that's what your students will have to have experience with for sure. And then there's your answer key. And really what separates the gold from everything else is that you also have access to McCarthy Math 155. So let me show you to see if there's anything here. So you have access to all this. This is the older program that I created with the Common Core standards that we used to use in Florida, but now we've moved on to the B.E.S.T standards. So not everything will apply. Some stuff looks a little bit different, and that's okay, but there still is a lot of great practice. So here we do compare numbers. So if we click on that place value unit 1, and then you can see here, we're comparing numbers. And it might be a little bit different here because the B.E.S.T standards were a little more explicit in what they were expecting than these Common Core, but you still have extra practice that you can use. A couple more practice pages for that standard. Cool. All right. Oh, third grade. Let me show you third grade. So if you have access to all 3 grade levels, I think this is awesome for 4th grade because there's a lot of alignment from 3rd grade up to 5th grade. And in 4th grade, you're in a really sweet spot to be able to have resources for everybody. If you do have access to 3rd grade, this will pop up. And everybody should have access to this standard, but we are going to go to this standard right here, MA.4.NSO.1.3, plotting, ordering, comparing numbers. And you can see that you have access to this, which here I'll just show you. This is that 3rd video lesson, comparing numbers on a number line, but see, these are smaller numbers because they're at the 3rd grade level. But it might, if you need to teach how to use a number line and how to plot points, this might be a good starting point, and then you can kick them up to the 4th grade version when they are ready. Okay? All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me in this episode of Breaking Down the B.E.S.T. But before you go, I do want to remind you that what you wake up and you choose to do with your life every single day, it really does matter. I know that this is one of the most challenging professions. Teachers do not get enough credit for what they do. That is just the truth. However, you have the most important job on the planet, in my opinion. And that's why I love supporting you, because our students, they are the future. And we don't know, we truly do not know how our time spent with them is going to help them continue to learn and grow and step into a better version of themselves. But we have to trust that what we wake up and do and our intentionality, it will make a difference down the road, even though we might not see it. So I just want to thank you for all that you do. I think that you are a rock star. I'm getting goosebumps. And don't forget that we should be leaders in learning and growing, that our learning and growing is never done. So thank you so much for joining me today. I can't wait to see you next time, and I'll see you soon. Bye. Okay, so I know that I just said goodbye for now, but I'm going to ask you to do one more thing, okay? If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with your teacher friends or other leaders in education. That's how I get to continue doing what I love to do, which of course is supporting you all to the best of my ability. All right, for real now. Bye.